Ancient ways call me forth through smoke and stone. Every breath brings strength to seeds we've grown. Medicine wheel keep turning, yeah. Knots keep burning bright. Miranda lead the circle round, teaching wrong to right. Keep turning, keep burning alive. Keep burning alive. Earth beneath my feet, power in the ground, guided by the wise ones, sacred ways we found. Each plant a blessing, each leaf a sign, walking in the footsteps of a healing kind. Medicine wheel keep turning, yeah. Knots keep burning bright. Miranda lead the circle round, teach you wrong to right. Keep turning, keep burning all night.
Hello, cheers, guys. Welcome to the show. We got 10 in here already. I'm just gonna do a couple shout outs here. Lori, Mr. Gannick, Silent Truth, Hippie Granola Vibes, Bokashi Earthworks, Dave Snod here. So we have an awesome guest tonight, Brandon Rust, who is the owner of Bokashi Earthworks. Some really great products. I'm just gonna do a little video kind of highlighting some of his website and stuff. So we'll take a quick look at that.
It's low and deep, hearts start to leap. Music all we need, it's planting the seed. Hands in the air, no worries, no cares. Lost in the sound, joy is all around. Sunset vibes, oh, feel that energy grow.
Hey, you really did your homework. That looks great.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually threw that one together last minute, but I did do a bunch of research on you, so I was a little prepared. So welcome. So, oh, you're welcome. Thanks for coming on. We're super excited to have you. So we'll start with like a basic question. We're just going to ask how you got started in regenerative practices.
On a bet.
On a bet.
Yeah, so I had actually done hydroponics. I ran the 2-gallon bucket inserts with the Hydroton Rock, the ebb and flow systems, and I was running general hydroponics 3-part with some like organic additives and stuff.
Yeah.
And I ran that for 11 years, and then I switched over to soil, and I was doing fertigation salts. I switched, and I was doing, I think, house and garden at the time. But the guy that taught me how to grow weed, you know, he's an OG. He's, you know, I don't know, 11 or 12 years older than me. And we've always kept in contact. And, you know, I would sell his weed all the time. I pick up weed from him if I was fucking low or if my harvest wasn't ready yet. And I was at his house one time, and he was talking about how he was going to switch up everything over to organic and blah, blah. And he's like, I was started getting all hyped on. I was like, yeah, I'm going to fucking do it too. And he's like, I bet you won't. And I was like, I'm going to go and fucking get all my stuff switched out. And I did. And I thought he was doing the same thing. And I don't know. I switched all my stuff out a couple months later. I was talking to him, and he was just like, I was just bullshitting with you, man. I was just fucking busting your balls. I was like, I didn't switch anything up. Well, my shit looks fucking great right now.
That's too funny.
And you know, so I switched it up. I remember the very first harvest, I was still using the parabolic hoods with the high pressure sodium metal halide combo.
Yep.
And I think the first thing I tried was like the subcool mix. And
very cool.
The weed was great. You know, the quality didn't suffer, but I didn't hit nearly as good numbers as I normally would.
Right.
And so that's when I really like, I was like, well, fuck, dude, I just switched over this whole fucking house. So I'm gonna have to fucking learn this shit real quick. At the time, I think it was around 2014 when I switched over. And at the time, there was a Facebook group called the Probiotic Farmers Alliance. And it
Yeah.
was a bunch of organic farmers. Alan Atkinson was the one who was running it. And he had a company called Bokashi where they were making Bokashi, which is basically a fermented, you inoculate like a wheat bran or a rice bran or some type of carbohydrate like substrate, and you
Yeah.
ferment it so it breaks it down to its base constituents and liberates all the nutrition from it, but also it proliferates a huge amount of beneficial microorganisms. And so I started learning about that, and I started reading books on soil and soil science and microbiology. And a lot of it I didn't even understand at first, but I just kept at it. I kept reading science white papers, and, I have a pretty good comprehension level. So, I just kept at it, and I got better and better at it. And, I've been doing it for a little
Here
while
you
now.
are.
I learned how to do soil agronomy, and I kind of created the bio crop steering protocols, which is using specific microorganisms at specific times in a certain
Yeah.
quantity to elicit a response from the plant, which is usually some type of biochemical reaction that's being produced by the secondary metabolites that those microorganisms produce. But yeah, I read a ton of books, things like this right here. I have a book right here sitting on my table. It's called Principles and Applications of Soil Microbiology, and this is the third edition. It was originally written in 1999, kind of like
Okay.
my Bible, and
No, very cool.
and they have a new third edition, so it has a lot of new stuff in it. But if
So
there's
when you say third edition, does it still have all the information from the first and second, and then they add to it, or is it completely different?
So what they'll do is they'll either edit and revise any information that's incorrect or something that they learned where they thought something, or they'll just add in additional information where they're saying, since, the last 18 years, because they did, I think, a second edition in 2004. They did this one in 2021. And so
Nice.
a lot more information, a lot more graphs, the technology to be able to take, pictures at that scale has improved.
For
But
sure.
I mean, if you're interested in anything soil or microbiology, having a textbook like that, and I can recommend a couple other books, like,
Yeah,
botany
books are good.
gardeners, and there's some other stuff that just will really help you understand how things work if you're really trying to crack the code.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. Very cool. So, what are some of the mistakes that growers might make when they're starting out doing this?
Usually it's just adding too much of any one thing. I think when people are building a living soil, or what we call a modified growing mix, whether it's a
Yeah.
peat based or a cocoa based substrate, oftentimes they're just adding too much stuff, too much meals, and the soil gets too hot, or
Right.
it's not really balanced, because it's not so much about the quantity, it's about the balance between those mineral nutrients. Because if we're looking at a plant that has optimal health, and we were to take leaf tissue and sap analysis to see what the nutrients are that are present in the
Yeah.
material, we can gauge, okay, well, this is what optimal health looks like. These are these numbers. But to get those numbers, there has to be balance in the nutrition that's being taken up by the plant.
Right. No, that's very cool. Very cool to know. And a lot of people do that even just with nutrients themselves. I've always been told whatever the package says, use half. I don't know if that's true or not, but they say that they always tell you to use more than what you need to use. And I think
Well,
they
here's
are
the thing.
correct.
Here's the thing. So when it comes to like just creating a feeding schedule, a standard feeding schedule,
Yeah,
things vary, right? Because your environments are different, the substrate is different, the amount of nutrients
true.
that are already in your substrate are different. A good example is if you go by like uh HP mix, or you go buy some 707 mix, or you go buy some Coco Loco or whatever it is, those
Yep.
all have different nutrient ratios in those. And if you don't know
Right.
what those nutrients are to begin with, and you're just following a standard recipe, one of those might have more nitrogen. And if you're doing a heavy veg formulation and adding more nitrogen than the plant needs, you could be running into issues. But it's
True.
contingent on so many factors, so you have to really take like a holistic look. What are your
True.
starting levels? That's why people usually dial things in and they try things and see what works best, and then they try to replicate it, because there's so many contingencies. I mean, so many
For
different
sure.
factors that have to be taken into consideration.
Right. Right. No, that's true. That is very true. And do you approach the indoor differently from the outdoor when you're growing?
I do, but give me 1 second. I need to grab some water. I have
Yeah,
really
go
bad
for
button up.
it. No worries. He was smoking bongs before this, so how's everybody doing tonight? I'm gonna do a couple more shout outs here. So we got Mr. Ganix, J5, Sea Bunny, Kind Buds, Steve's not here, J Rats, Mo, welcome. Wade, hello. I think I got everybody. Okay. So yeah, so how do you approach indoor and outdoor differently?
So you have to think one indoor always has a more stable environment and is
Right.
predictable. Well, outdoors is a little bit different. So
Yes.
and then when I'm growing outdoors, I'm growing directly in the native soil.
Yep.
And where I'm at, it's sand. It's literally sand.
Yeah.
So there's two types of soil out here. There's either red dirt or there's sand. And we're on
Okay.
sand. And so I've done a soil test, and my water has more nutrients and holds more nutrients than the soil does. So I have to
Oh,
do a lot of heavy amending. So I did a lot of
okay.
leaf mold compost. I'll do a lot of like natural farming
Yep.
practices
Yeah, I
outdoors.
saw some of your stuff. Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool.
So like outdoors, I built some Hugo culture pits where I took a bunch of old, dead tree limbs and stuff and mulched those up, and then I put
Cool.
a bunch of leaf mold compost and chicken and horse manure compost, and then I put just a top layer of soil and kind of let them, turn over. I did a couple
Yep.
of boxes that are like raised bed style that way.
Oh, cool.
And then I also put like a tarp down and then put compost.
Oh,
I built a hoop
nice.
house, right, with
Oh, very
PVC and
cool. I want
rebar.
one.
And I put a bunch of potatoes and garlic and stuff like that. But I treat the soil differently, and I use, a lot of composts, and I'll use,
Yep.
microbial inoculants like the
Okay.
Bavaria and the Trichoderma. I use those things outdoors, especially on
Yeah.
my cannabis, like more frequently than I
Right.
do on my indoor, because those
Okay.
things are controlling external factors that I don't have any control of.
For
Uh,
sure. For sure.
but yeah, I just do a lot of, I have a thing like an old giant like 250-gallon tote of
Yeah.
humate fertilizer that had just like a little bit left
Uh,
over from the very last of it, and I filled the whole thing up with water. So I'll
cool.
water every once in a while. I'll water the garden beds, or I'll water inside the hoop house with it.
Very cool. I like that. I really like that. And so what do you do? Like, I know here in Ontario, it's really touchy, like in and around September. we start to get powdery mildew. We got to be careful of that. So I know a lot of people want to know what you do to prevent the powdery mildew and
Yeah.
things like that.
So we can get powdery mildew here as well. I'm in the Midwest in Oklahoma. And it usually happens when you have a higher humidity and cooler temperatures. So when it
Yeah.
starts getting cooler, when the temperatures at night start dropping, that's usually when powdery mildew creeps in. I have to be really mindful of leaf septoria out here
Oh, okay.
because there's a lot of trees and oak and stuff like that. So it's just kind of ubiquitous. It's everywhere in the environment.
Yeah.
And so I have that. And then also, like, it's been storming, so it's really wet. And there's plants in the ground. And the good thing is, it's sandy soil, so it drains quickly. But if
Right.
I'm not careful, you can get fusarium. I don't see it very often, but I have seen it, I have seen it in
Okay.
the past. But the treatment for all of those things is the trichoderma and the bacillus subtilis combination, because what I have are pure spores, so they don't have a carrier. And so
Right.
the benefit is, if let's say it's September and you haven't harvested yet and it starts to rain and there's a rainstorm, like,
Yeah.
even if you don't have issues, you're now in the types of conditions that are conducive for things like botrytis, bud mold, to start forming.
Right.
So after a rainstorm, I'll actually go and spray my plants if something like that happens, because it's better to
Okay.
have a microorganism be inoculated there, and it's not going to leave any residue because there's no carrier. So it's basically
Right.
like it's already raining. There's actually microbes in that rain already. You might as
Yeah.
well just, spray and as a preventative so it doesn't happen. So I do things like that, but I spray and drench the soil, and I have to do it
Okay.
I do it probably about once every 6 weeks
Oh, okay.
throughout the season. And I don't seem to have, any issues. I always get leaf septoria no matter what, but
Right.
it's negligible, and I don't see a decrease in quality or yield, where I have
And
seen it in the past where it'll just start moving up the plant and start causing
yeah,
the leaves to die, and then it can, if left treated, it can really do damage.
for sure, for sure. And bud rot itself, like it once you see it, it starts on the inside, does it not?
Usually, because when you're and also it usually happens with plants that have like tighter nodal spacing, that are a little more dense, because what's happening is the inside of that plant is holding more moisture,
Right.
right? And so that moisture is where, bacteria and molds grow. And so,
Yep.
if you're spraying throughout the season, the thing is, like, trichoderma and bacillus subtilis, one is a fungus and the other is a bacteria, and they will colonize not only the soil biosphere, but the rhizosphere, the root zone, and they will also
Oh,
colonize the phylosphere, so the entire upper plant biome, and it can protect
yeah.
it throughout the season, as long as are using it at, during your preventative maintenance.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay. Now, we talked about this before. Obviously, we can't get this stuff in Canada. But I just was thinking in my head, like, I could probably get an American friend to purchase it for me and then just send it to me themselves.
Well,
Could I get away with that?
no, no, because it still has to go through customs and everything, and
Right. So
because,
they
like,
would
all the
still
products
stop
that
and
you see on my website, I had to get agricultural label registration. So that's something I figured
right.
out a couple years ago. And it's really just, you have to format and everything properly, and you have to have the correct information. And when you submit, you have to
Right.
send it in with lab results, so that way it can be verified. And
So
so,
Brandon needs help getting into Canada, everybody.
well,
Whoever can help him out.
well, here's the thing. We're working on a pretty big project, and I'm sure that'll happen soon.
Yeah.
Soon.
That would be very cool because I know a lot of Canadians that are dying for your stuff. It was actually another Canadian that told me that I couldn't get it here, so that's why I asked you originally. That's awesome.
Yeah, and
I hope
usually the stuff
we
that
can.
you do see, it usually contains an inert carrier, but
Right.
because they're like adding a small amount of microbes,
Mm-hmm.
and so I mean that could be an issue if you're trying to like spray your plants and stuff like that, especially if you're in flowering.
Yeah, for sure. No, I like the stuff that you're using, and I would really
And
like
I
to
don't
try it.
normally spray my plants. Like indoors, I don't even spray. I don't spray my plants.
No.
Last time I apply is the second week, and that's when they, are after they've bolted and they're like starting to flower.
Right.
That's the last time I hit them.
Oh, that makes
Indoors.
sense.
In indoors, I only do it like 3 times because the season is so much faster. So it's not.
For sure, for sure. Let it get out. No, definitely. So, how important is it for that you source locally for your company? Is it important, or do you just
No. Well, okay. So when we're thinking about the logistics, it has to make sense logistics
for sure,
wise, right?
for sure?
So some of the stuff I source, I have partners in China, and
Yeah.
then I have all the compost and everything where the soil's blended. That's actually about 3 hours away from Oklahoma City and Fort Worth.
Oh,
And
nice.
then we're working currently on building a factory. Well, we're working on a raise,
Oh,
capital raise, so we can start a factory. But we have a company that I formed,
yeah.
which is a joint venture between my company and NASA Agricultural Technologies to build a humate fertilizer factory and a factory to manufacture the NutriGrow pots.
Okay.
And what we're doing is we're taking the waste material from the coal industry that they used to power power plants, and we're
Okay.
turning that waste material into we're extracting all the mineral nutrient ions from it, all the humic and fulvic acids, and then making the humate fertilizer. So it's
Oh,
basically
very
a
cool.
sustainable development project that ties in energy and sustainability in agriculture and also resource, because we're basically taking a waste byproduct and a resource that isn't conventionally looked at when we're talking about fertilizer, even though
Yeah.
it's decayed organic material. That's what it is, and it contains all the essential plant nutrients. They're just captured. They're essentially mineralized, and they're captured in
Okay.
the form, and so um they has to be extracted. And so
Okay.
it's a sustainable development project, which is really cool,
That
because
is
we,
cool.
we use less energy to manufacture a product that has a higher use efficiency without any negative environmental impact. But that's
No,
something
that's
that's in the
awesome.
works. That's in the works. That's something that I've been working on for a while now, and we're just waiting on contract arrangements and all that stuff um, for this venture capital company to
Oh,
give us
that's awesome. That sounds
we
exciting. Yeah, there is a question up there.
so like the green Bodhi um, bloom nutrient, the top dress nutrient. So it's made from sunflower hull ash. So the waste byproduct from sunflowers, and also
Okay.
coffee compost. So it's
Ah,
really it's naturally high in potassium, and that's one of the agglomerated. Well, so what's done is it just mixed with either like molasses. It is
yeah.
molasses, but you can do it with other stuff too. You can do it with like lignosulfides and other things, but it's molasses is
Okay.
how it's done, and it's just blended. Those meals are blended together to pelletize them so that they're easier to use, and they're not like because the material is real fine.
Right.
But those are essentially again, those are recycled materials. That's down
No,
in
for
Fort
sure.
Worth. But again, if it makes sense logistically, like you have to think about when we're thinking about like solving issues globally, and even when we're talking about geopolitics and economics, you have to think in terms of energy, resource, and logistics.
Yeah.
You know,
No, absolutely, absolutely. And even on a business standpoint, like, you want to do everything as ethical and, as natural as possible. But sometimes there's some things it's just not possible. You have to change it up a bit. So I totally get that. So excuse me, have psychedelics or any other plant medicines been anywhere along your journey or influenced you in any way?
oh, I've done a massive amount of psychedelics. And I
Yeah.
mean, I'm like dead serious. I've eaten, probably 3/4 to an ounce of mushrooms at once,
Oh
multiple
shit.
times. I've I've done all, you name it. I've eaten, tons of LSD at once.
Oh god. Well,
I've
that's
done
one thing
like,
I've never
I've
done.
done, I would consider myself like, if somebody was new to psychedelics that was around me, it would be probably, and they were like losing it, like having me
Yeah.
around would probably be a like really good vibe, because I can set the
Yes.
tone and like, build them down, because it's all a vibe, you know what I mean?
Oh,
And
for
it's like,
sure.
so psychedelics have definitely influenced my perception on,
Yeah.
basic, spiritual principles. And I mean, it's really hard to like fathom maybe for some people, but like when you're in it and you're talking to like interdimensional entities or like aliens or whatever the fuck you want to call them, like
Yeah.
it'll kind of change your perception of like, you know, what's what in the world. So
Very true. So I've been microdosing mushrooms for quite a while now. I have PTSD. So I've found that they have been super helpful just with my anxiety in general. Like, I'm not as anxious. I have a really hard time, like, just relaxing. I'm like, my head is always fucking going. So they're helping big time with that. But I will say the most mushrooms I've ever taken in one time was like 14 grams. And I give you credit for doing more than that, because that was the most intense fucking trip I've ever had in my life. And I couldn't be around people. Like, I had to do it by myself. I was with people,
oh well,
but
yeah.
yeah, I literally went out of the house by the fire, and I literally kept trying to go in and join everybody, and it was just not working. So yeah, that was a pretty wild time. I do like psychedelics a lot. I've never done LSD though. Somebody gave me what they said was liquid acid one time, and I felt something, but I don't know, because like in my mind I was thinking I should have been feeling different than what I felt. So I don't really know if it was that or not,
A really
but it
good
was
friend of
interesting.
mine got some some sheets. The acid
Yeah.
was produced in a Swiss laboratory,
Oh shit.
and he got a hold of some of that. He had a lot of it, actually. He bought a fucking ton of it.
Oh
But
no.
I mean, there
Were they
was
like plotters
we
or?
there was a lot. I mean, yeah, it was on paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
They put it on paper. But between, I mean, even designer drugs, I've done a bunch of designer drugs too that were hallucinogenic. Like, because there was
Yeah.
at one point we were like really into like the air winds fall and like all of this dude kept coming out with all these psychedelic molecules, and then they'd get like
Cool.
banned by the DEA, and then he'd be like, oh well, I'm going to change the structure of this molecule, and then it's something different, right?
Right.
And so there was at one point that I had a friend, and he would just always bring these different psychedelic molecules, 2CB, 2CI. There was just a bunch of them.
Oh,
It was
cool.
it was interesting. Some of them were like, it was much different than some of the other like mushroom varieties or LSD or like peyote or anything like that. So
Oh, crazy. Fuck, I haven't done really much. I've done other things that we won't discuss on here, but nice. No, that's awesome. So, how do you stay inspired in the moments in life that are hard? What inspires you to keep going?
well, you don't have to look at it as being difficult. It's just everything's a matter of perception.
Yep,
What
agree.
here's if I don't care if it sounds corny or not, but if you really practice changing your perception on things, then your reality like changes, you
Yeah,
know.
I agree. I agree. So I lost my sister last year, and this entire year has just been a journey, like just me digging deep and trying to rebuild myself. And I agree with you completely. Yeah.
But I'm pretty hard. Like I've been through a lot, so I've been pretty hardened by life. I've done
Yeah.
prison terms, and I went through foster care when I was younger, and I was
Oh,
homeless when I was a teenager. So like the stuff I can look back on that, I can reflect on that, not
yeah.
not as looking at it like I was a victim or any from that type of perception, but just so I can be grateful for what I do have. You know what I mean? Because again, it may
Totally.
sound cheesy or whatever, but every day that you get to wake up is a blessing.
It
And
is.
if you just, if you set yourself a goal and you work towards that goal, even if it's just small steps, doing one thing at a time, even if it takes longer than you want, as
Yeah.
long as you don't lose the stride and the mindset. Again, a lot of it just working on the mindset.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, because I was stuck in my head this last year. And that's basically what I was working on, was getting out of my head. And you know it just took such a toll on me. I can't really say I've lost other people, but my sister was just a big one, and it completely
Yeah.
changed my outlook on life. And yeah, life is short. And
Everybody dies. It's one thing that connects us. Just like this thing, this breath,
exactly.
it all connects us. So just be grateful that you have it. Well, you do,
Yep.
because here's the
Yep.
thing. I have a skeletons tattooed on my hand, and this is a
Yeah.
daily reminder to myself that I could fucking die anytime. We never fucking know. So just
Yep.
if you why be miserable? You're gonna be
No,
dead.
totally
You're gonna be
agree.
dead soon. you know
Totally.
I mean, it might be in 40 years, it might be tomorrow, it might be,
Yep.
70 years from who knows, but
Yeah.
it's gonna
No,
happen. So
you're absolutely right. Just a little shout out. We did actually lose somebody in the community the other day. So just say some prayers for his family, please. Chronic Chatter. I'm not sure if you followed that show. Big Time Tim. Um, Dave is his actual name. Unfortunately, had a heart attack and didn't make it the other morning. So everybody say prayers for his wife and his kids. And that just shows you right there, we're watching his show on Monday and he's gone. So life is short. And what I want to say about life being short is the only fucking thing that we can take with us and that we can keep when somebody passes away is love. So just love people, love your family, show love to people, And I will say another one little thing is when somebody is showing hate towards you, it's usually not about you, man. It's usually something inside them. And just ignore it and walk away. All right, back to some questions. Okay, since we're talking about love and kindness, what is the kindest thing you've ever seen or experienced throughout your life? Or even just one of the kindest. It doesn't have to be the kindest. But I'm going to do this every show, guys, from now on. Everybody's going to get this kindness question.
I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Or even if you saw an act of kindness that maybe stood out in your mind.
I mean,
If you don't have an answer, it's okay.
I don't. Nothing
Just a
that is
warning.
like significant, you know, like not that I've seen personally. I see shit on the internet all the time,
Yeah,
you know, but
true.
you know, to be honest, I kind of live in my own little bubble, you know.
I hear you. I hear you. I think we all do these days.
Um, you know, me personally, I thought that it was really kind that Dr. George and his wife kind of took me in like family and, you know, taught me about this technology and, you know, just all the things that are happening, you know, and that are set to happen in the future are kind of a blessing bestowed by them.
For
So
sure.
that's pretty neat having like a mentor, somebody who's incredibly intelligent, you know, somebody who's an old NASA engineer. uh,
Yeah, somebody you respect. That's awesome.
so you know that's pretty cool on my end. And you know, me personally, I just try to you know, help people out in the community I work in. Um, you know, answering people's questions when they message me, and you know,
Yes.
just helping. However, you know, I I uh I don't know. I just do
I will
whatever.
say, like, we get a lot of free information from just watching your videos alone. And so we are grateful that you share that information because, yeah, not everybody is willing to share it like that. So that's
Well,
awesome.
here's the thing. You know, my philosophy on that is, look, if everybody can be, you know, growing their own and they can kind of be self-sufficient in that manner, it really kind of is a gateway drug to like growing your own food and then like, oh,
Yes.
hey, I'm gonna be like less dependent on the government. And that's kind of like the most
Yes.
American thing, like self-sufficiency and independence comes through self-sufficiency and self-reliance, right? And that's like
True.
the basis of like, you know, America. I know you guys are in Canada, but I think that's what
No,
everybody
we're the
really
same.
wants. And here's the thing, like I posted this thing on some dude talking about the removal of synthetic dyes from foods in America, and people
Yes.
were just getting into big political debates in the comments, and it's like it has nothing to do with that. You guys realize I grow my own food.
Yeah.
I don't care if there is red 40 or whatever, because it's not like you have the option and freedom to eat that if you want, but like
Yep.
you know it's there. So like don't fucking buy it. Buy something that doesn't. Don't support the companies that like your dollar goes further than your vote. You know what I mean? It's just the
Absolutely.
way it is. Economics rules everything. And if people just stop supporting the companies that are making that type of shit, then they won't fucking make it anymore. Or they'll fucking
Yes.
change their recipes. So it's like it's a double-edged sword when you talk about that kind of stuff, because people get so worked up and everybody has opinion, and it's like most of the stuff that you see online is fake anyway, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
really, again, if you really want to understand what's happening in the world, look at the in terms of energy, resource, and logistics.
Yes. No, I agree. I agree. That's awesome. So, if there was one thing, I'm sure there's many things, but if there was your top thing that you would change about the cannabis industry, what would it be?
I'll probably change spray packs. That shit's ridiculous. Moon
Mm-hmm.
rocks. That shit's stupid as fuck. Like, come on, can we just, the problem is that the consumer doesn't really, they're uneducated, and
Yes.
it's not the consumer's fault, because I was that person when I was fucking 15 years old. I was smoking fucking
Yeah.
brick weed, Mexican bag
So
weed, and I'd be stoked if the weed was green. I was like, oh yeah, I got good weed. And
for
looking
sure.
back on that, I could look at myself. I could tell my younger self now, like, you are smoking the fucking swag, homeboy. Like, but
Totally.
and it's not the consumer's fault. It's really the people that like are really that are introducing them, or that are like say are because if you went directly to a grower, for instance, and it was your first time, that grower is more than happy to tell you probably about the genetics and the terpene profiles,
Yeah.
and nerd out with you, so that way kind of what you're consuming and stuff like that, as opposed to like, oh, I'm gonna get some fucking like there was like, we just pretty much called everything that was good chronic. It could have been
Yeah.
alcohol,
Yeah.
it could have been, if
I
it was fucking
remember.
seedless, if it was seedless weed, and it wasn't fucking brick, it was fucking chronic. And
Oh
it wasn't
yeah.
until things like the Jack started coming around, and the White Rhino started coming around, and like stuff like that like I knew that there was weed that was like special, and it was
Yes.
special because it was fucking, a certain genetic and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And it was like, it was my own curiosity that led me into the space. But I think it's just because there just needs to be more education that's easily accessible. And the
Yeah.
problem with that is cannabis is still really underground. Like, they don't really
For sure.
promote it on mainstream platforms. Like, a lot of us that use like IG, even YouTube and stuff like
Yep.
that, they get flagged or banned or reported, or the algorithm picks them up. And so it makes it really difficult for really, even if the information is really good, high quality information, it makes it more difficult for mainstream people to come across it and learn something.
It does. So I'll say, like, I work in a native dispensary. I live on a native reserve, so we don't have any controlled government stuff. We make up our own laws and rules regarding that. But
Mm-hmm.
I will say, because I've worked in that, compared to the legal market, they're not allowed to educate people at the stores. That is the rule here in Canada. They are not allowed to give advice, which is absolutely blows my mind. But I get it, because it's recreational, it's not medicinal. So they don't want
Yeah.
them giving them the wrong information. But I'll say we are allowed to do that, because I'm in a native dispensary, and half the people don't want to be educated. They walk in and they are like, everybody you hear,
You need
what's
the
the highest
highest THC at the
THC?
cheapest
What's the
price.
highest? Yeah, and I'm like, listen, man, like, this is the highest, but I got more high off this fucking 16% one, like, and they're just like, they will not take it in. They won't, they don't want to be educated. Some people do, but I'll tell you, the majority don't give a shit. They want the hype and
Yeah. Well, eventually some of those people may want, and I get it too, because there are people that are just happy just smoking Reggie or whatever,
yep,
and they don't really give a shit, and that's probably what they'll just keep on doing. And but some people will be
I
like,
know.
what's fucking like, I want some of that good shit. Like, they'll smoke something, and maybe they have a fucking experience on that, and then they're like, hey,
Yes,
this is what I want to try. And then they, you know I
definitely.
get it. I understand. There's a lot of different, people in the world that want different things, and there are people that'll drink, a Coors Light, and then there are people that are gonna want a craft IPA, and there's people all in between, and it's just about, what the consumer wants. So
I
I
think
get it.
we've
I understand it.
also
I understand the spray packs. I get it. But like I said, all that shit's dumb. It's
I
dumb.
think we've
As
also
somebody like who, here's the thing. To me, it just tells me that whatever product they had originally produced was subpar to begin with.
exactly that's what my take. They needed to spray it to make it smell nicer and be more attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get that. Yeah, no, I don't like that either. I will say, like, it's been like I've been at this store for almost 8 years now. So 8 years this summer we've been open, and there's been a major change from the beginning to where it is now. So when we first opened, it was like fucking the wild, wild west. Like everybody, like the place would be packed daily because people were just like, oh, we can buy weed. And throughout the years, it's kind of, we've just got like certain clients now. And I will say, most of the people that come now are in their 40s and above. You get some younger people, but at the beginning, it was all a lot of younger people. It's crazy how much it's changed. And the older people do want to be educated, which I really do like. And we've actually held classes for people and gone and taught them different things, which is really cool. So yeah, there's a difference, I think, in generations too, right?
Well, markets will regulate themselves, and then also you have to remember too, the atmosphere of the actual store will attract different subsets of people. So if you had younger
Yes,
people that were working in there, it was more hip and stuff, you're probably gonna attract a different crowd as opposed to, there's
exactly.
it's just how it is. So you have to
No, you're
be.
right. We did have a lot more people and younger people working at the time, and we were always playing like rap music and stuff like that. And then it kind of gradually went more boutique-y, I guess. So now we're attracting the older crowds, and we have like, deals for seniors and things like that. So I think that's why they keep coming. But you are right. The atmosphere has a lot. The atmosphere compared to the beginning to now is completely different. So
Yeah, and also the markets start regulating themselves too. A lot of times, what you'll see is you'll see a huge influx of people that are participating, and as they, a lot of people will invest and they'll start businesses, and then they'll figure out that they're not as good at what they thought they were going to do, or they have issues in the business, and you see that the market kind of fluctuates and regulates itself, where people will build
yeah,
brands and come out strong, and other people will
yep,
fall off and kind of just leave the space. So that's
very
how
true.
it is in all areas. It just depends on how the market matures, how the regulation plays out. A lot of the times will affect how the market matures.
True.
Um, but yeah,
Marketing's a big thing too. Like I've seen it even in the store, like the companies that market a lot more, their stuff might be not as good quality, but they sell more because it's out there. Where, some of them aren't marketing as much and they're just not known as well, but their stuff is like way better, you know what I mean? It's kind of shitty that way, but a lot of people don't have the funds too for the marketing, right? So by the time they get everything going,
it can be tricky. It's a tricky thing to balance. We do a ton of marketing ourselves, and it's a
yeah,
huge part of the business. Is just you know, but you also you have to know how to optimize everything too, using analytics and everything like that. So that way you know how
yeah,
much your ad spend is, who you're reaching, who your target audience is. All those things are super important. I've learned so
definitely.
much about business in the last couple of years. I could probably teach a business class now.
Oh, probably. Yeah, I've learned a lot too because I stepped down now, but I was the manager there. So I had never done a lot of the things that I had to, and I learned it on my own. So somebody had stepped down and I got the position, and I literally had like a day of training, and all they trained me was payroll. I had to learn everything else myself. So
Yep.
yeah, I got really
Payroll,
good at it too.
tax reporting.
Oh yeah, like
all
because I
year.
was in charge of the website and updating it, and like, oh yeah, it was
Oh
wild.
yeah.
But I did
Yeah,
learn a lot.
we're about to relaunch.
Awesome.
We kept running into this issue on a trademark. So it's like we're
Uh,
gonna relaunch, but we're transitioning onto a private server that'll have a larger speed capacity, and then all of our website will be completely optimized. Because what we are doing a bunch of like analytics and stuff, and we were testing things out, and I figured out what we could do better on the technology side, and so we're working on integrating all of that right now. So in the next probably month or so, we'll see
yeah.
how long. We'll see. It. I don't think it'll take very long to get it done, but got to wait on the trademark thing.
No, that's awesome. That sounds exciting. That'll be cool. Yeah, trademarks, all that shit is really. So I'll tell you, the name of our store is the Medicine Wheel Natural Healing, and another store. So we just got shortened. Everybody calls us the Medicine Wheel. So we opened right at legalization, and then somebody opened a store in Toronto called just the Medicine Wheel. And we didn't patent or trademark our name or anything. So, like, there literally was nothing we could do. And I think they killed our business a little bit because of the way they were running their business, and people kept thinking we were them. I literally got a call daily because they didn't have a phone. Like, their store was a little sketchy. They didn't have a phone, they didn't have a website. Like, it was really weird. And so we would get calls thinking we were them. And like literally daily, I had to be like, this isn't us. And it was people calling to complain. So I don't know what was going on there, but I think that took a little bit of a hit on our business because of it, which kind of sucked. So was there ever a point during your transition that you felt like giving up
No,
and
you
doing
growing
something
weed? You
different?
mean
No,
giving up
like
growing
doing
weed?
starting your business, your Bokashi business. Did you ever
No,
think?
I started it with $300.
All right. So key point to that is Brandon is not a quitter.
I mean, what else am I gonna do? Here's the thing. I just I just do what I'm already doing. You know.
No, I think you're good at it and you should keep doing it. So where do you see your company or other things going in the future? Like, do you have, I know you talked about you do have some stuff planned. Is there anything else planned for the future?
Yeah, I've got long term goals, short-term goals. Short-term goals is to get the factory built out, and we're waiting on our dispensary. We have a small
Yes.
vertically integrated dispensary and grow in downtown Oklahoma City, and
Yes, I saw that.
everything is finished. The build out's finished on Monday. They're just he's doing is finishing the floors.
Awesome.
And we're just waiting on inspections. They've already been called, so as soon as the inspections start, they do one after the other of
Yeah.
the elect. Then we'll be ready to go, be able to start growing in there. So that'll come online here shortly. Working on the North Dakota project and just trying to get the funds together for that so we can start that
Yeah.
project. But I have to go and we applied for a grant for the APCU up there, and I have to go up there in May to
Oh,
go into
cool.
the APCU board. I'm like 100% we're going to get the grant because they're the ones that kind of recommended it to us anyway.
Yeah.
And so there's all of that stuff that's going on. Long-term plan is after the factory is built and we've built out distribution partners is to use this technology and take it globally to other places that are like
Yes.
reliant on for fertilizer imports but have lignite, which is that oxidized lignite coal, be-
Okay.
um, because that can be turned into fertilizer at really,
Mhm.
really inexpensively with very little energy requirement, and it can be done in a sustainable fashion. So
Very cool.
it can help, you know, other developing countries and other countries in the world, you know, be less dependent on these, you know, chemical fertilizers, which, you know, they work. Obviously, people grow with like hydroponic nutrients, but the problem is when you look at it from a logistics standpoint, the energy needed to create it, the resource needed to make it, and
Yep.
then where those things are sourced from are extremely inefficient. And then the actual, you know, product is inefficient and environmentally damaging. So, you know, these big, large industrial systems aren't going to go away. But if I can do something to change those, to create, you know, better models that are environmentally friendly, reduce energy usage, and logistically make sense.
Yep.
That's a long-term goal. So, you know, I plan on, you know, I mean, I don't if everything goes, you know, one step at a time and we just stay focused, I don't see why we can't be a multi-billion-dollar company at some point.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, I
That's
don't need to.
awesome.
I mean, I'm not going to be like riding around in a yacht or anything. I'll still be planting tomatoes and peppers and fucking potatoes in the garden. But I
Absolutely.
just I just think about the amount of impact that I could have, you
For
know.
sure. For sure. No, you're doing some really great work. Really great work.
The NutriGrow pots are a great example of that because that's one of the things that we'll be producing, and that can just completely eliminate the single waste plastics from agriculture. But it also, you know, if you were doing corn and you started off with a little 1 inch by 1 inch square
Yep.
pot that was like, you know, 20 grams of fertilizer, you did like 50,000 corn in a hectare and a hectare of land.
Yep.
You essentially are putting down 1,000 kilos, which is more than enough fertilizer for that whole crop just right at the beginning. So farmers are
Yep.
going to have to go back and refertilize and do all this other
I love
maintenance,
that.
labor, machine repair costs, fuel costs, all those things are reduced. And
For
so what we're
sure.
looking at is like these systems from a like logistics standpoint where we're like mapping out, you know, how can we reduce costs overall, and it's to, you know, incorporate this technology. It has, you know, a carbon chelated nutrition that stimulates the soil microbiome, doesn't pollute, and
Yep.
logistically makes more sense. So once we can produce these in all these different sizes and we get into places like Kuwait and Saudi Arabia and Turkey, where they have these really sandy soils and they're trying to produce
Yeah.
all of their own foods, where agriculture is growing, or doesn't matter where you're at, you know, globally
Yep.
here in the US, you know, when I think about sustainability, I think about energy, resource, and logistics. And when but I also think in terms of economic sustainability as well, because
Yeah.
regardless of what your opinion is on, and like I said, I don't have a, a political view on, you know, what I believe you would be if you want to be completely free, if you want to participate in the system, but the system isn't going anywhere, like I said
Hmm.
before, and being able to have positive impact on that is better than just sitting by and doing nothing, or just yelling at
No, for
things
sure.
about it online, or you know.
Definitely. No, I like that. I like that a lot. So what part of your work brings you the most joy?
Oh, probably smoking my weed. You know, that final thing, you know, when it's like, fuck yeah, I'm trimming this shit up in some
Yes.
jars. I get to taste the new flavors. What up? Let me get some flavy flaves. Um,
For sure. No,
I
I
mean,
love
no,
that
it's
part too.
cool. You know, I've said it before. I think the whole process is therapeutic when you're nurturing something and watching it grow, and then you're reaping the reward of your work, and you can see
Yep.
that in kind of a short time when you're doing indoor. You know, you might be like 2 months in flowering. You know, so you get to see that thing go from little plant to, you know, full blossom plant. And so
Yes.
that's always really rewarding. I love to be able to, you know, hunt through my genetics and do line work and do selection stuff, and that's probably the funnest part.
For
But
sure.
I
No,
really
I
like
agree.
I really like the business side of things because I get to learn things, you know, like I'm constantly learning new things and adapting, and I'm meeting people that I probably wouldn't have if I didn't have all of the stuff that I have going on. You know, like
Absolutely. Yeah.
like because I'm moving into a space that's, it's like I said, it's kind of scary on some levels because I've had conversations with my attorneys. Like eventually, you're going to get approached by some of these big, these giants, and you have to
Yes.
be prepared for those types of situations. And so it's like, I understand that we have like a disruptive technology and that I'm going to be promoting it super hard, especially once the place is all built. A lot of responsibility, but I really like the challenge. It's like, it's building personal growth all the time. It's not,
Yep.
it's like, when you're trying to perfect something in a genetic line or where you're trying to pull something out, isolate it. It's like you're doing the same thing. Like you're a character in a RPG, video game where you're like leveling up all the time and you're like,
Yes.
you're getting your statistics up, you're getting your like, oh hey, I'm getting my GP up, I'm getting my goal points up, I'm getting my intelligence is going up, my
For
like
sure.
like when you have, because here's the thing, I had no business IQ whatsoever when I started this, and
Yep.
like didn't understand about paying taxes, and I come from a trapping background, so it's like when I got into
Yeah.
like a legitimate space, I had to start thinking and doing things differently.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, you're right about that. You do. Because I've always been on that side too. Like I started growing when I was about 17, and we'd throw them out in the cornfields and hope they come out at the end. Sometimes you'd risk going to water, sometimes you wouldn't, depending on where it was. So I love the freedom to be able to literally watch them grow now, which is really cool.
I gotta
So we
go
got
grab a little bit more water.
Yeah, go for it. Thanks for popping in, guys. This is really, really informative. I'm having a good time. I hope you guys
I'm gonna
are.
have to I'm gonna have to put this one in my notes that this one gives crazy cotton mouth. Cause see here, it's like I have all different phenos of this
What
chem
is
dog
it?
across the Black Lime Reserve,
Okay, yeah.
and so I've been trying them out here and there and testing them. And
Nice.
this one, you might need water if you're gonna smoke on it.
Lots of water for that one. Yeah, some of them are like that. So another question actually that I missed was do you notice, like, have you grown certain strains in the past um a different way and then grown it the way you do now and noticed a difference in the way they take things? Like, do you find that certain plants are better with the way you do it now compared to before, or
I
do
mean,
you know?
I've been pretty much doing the same thing for 11 years, and then before
Yeah.
that, I was doing soil and nutrient salts for like 2 years before that, and before that, I was doing hydroponics for 11 years. So,
Okay.
I you know I would say that my weed is probably better now than it was then because I know a lot more and I have a
Right.
ton of experience. But I mean, even back then, I mean, we were always getting top dollar. It was like it's it's. I mean, I don't really know how to gauge it. I look at
Yeah.
my herb versus like some of the other top, you know, herb that I've even judged from competitions, and you know, the only three competitions that have entered that have my genetics, placed. So
Hmm.
that was kind of cool.
That's awesome. Yeah,
But,
that's really awesome. Well, that
but
means it's a good
no, I don't know
strain.
if there's. I don't really see. Like if I was running something that I was running back then, I'm not. It's really hard to remember. Too, because if I had the same
True.
cut of, like purple kush, right? And I grew it now, I would, I would be able to remember, but it would really be hard for me to like judge because it's been so fucking long.
True, true. No, you're right about that.
And it's like here's the thing, a lot of stuff too, I feel like people are really nostalgic about, and I talk shit about Blue Dream all the time, and I use it as an example. When it first hit the scene, growers loved it because it was throwing down fucking massive. Like you were getting
Yeah.
fucking huge yields, and back then, if you had chronic, you were getting top dollar if it wasn't swag or brickweed or whatever. So
True.
everybody started fucking growing it, right? Because
Yeah.
they were fucking getting paid off of it. And so a lot of people got Blue Dream, right? And then it
Yes.
started becoming popular, right? Oh, we want the Blue Dream. And then the people were renaming shit just like they
Yes.
always have done. They've been, renaming shit since fucking names have been a fucking thing. And so a lot of times it's more of the nostalgia because it's like, oh, this was like the first, this, like for me, like White Rhino is nostalgic because it was the first like real chronic, or the stuff that I grew for 10, 11, 12 years on a consistent basis. Those are like nostalgic to me. Like I love
Right.
Jack and Trainwreck and really piney stuff, and a lot of people don't like those types of things. In fact, people are like, oh, I don't like terpenoline, I don't like Jack. And it's like those to me are like one of the more nostalgic things. I do like those.
I like the pine. I don't like the pepper. There's something with the pepper terp I don't like.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan either. That's how all of the old Mexican bag seed that I ever grew out, like I grew it out really well, but it was that really kind of peppery incense, and it's just not something that I liked.
No, I don't like it either. I love pepper itself, but I don't like it in the flower. And I will say I grew garlic breath, which a lot of people like, and the high's really good. And I love garlic, but I cannot get over that garlickiness in that plant. I can't smoke it. I ended up actually giving it all to D.
Oh, I like those. I like the GMOs and the funky stuff. There's not a whole lot of stuff that I don't like, but like I said, Blue Dream was just like, it was always to me mids. And if you look at the same cut again, I've seen it grown by excellent growers, dude. And it's just, to me, it's just like, I got stuff, way better stuff than this. Like, I'm not like, I wouldn't grow that in my personal garden. You would never see me growing it in my personal garden because
I grew one.
because I don't like it. It's not like,
yeah. I hear you. I grew a Blue Dream, and I will say, there isn't a lot of potency to it necessarily, but I do like it like first thing in the morning before I start going to do something, because I find it's mild enough, but gives me a little bit of a lift.
Yeah, you know what I like to smoke though is I like to smoke the stuff that just gets your heart racing. That people like, I have people that'll be like, I'm not smoking that with you. That shit makes my fucking heart race.
Yeah,
I've done that so many times. I'm like, yeah, but that's because you're fucking smoking weed and chilling. You're gonna go fucking smoke this and go sit on your couch and like go watch TV or whatever. Yeah, your heart's racing. Go do something. Then you won't feel that fucking anxiety. You'll be fucking busy.
Very true.
I'm smoking like Blueberry Train Mac, or I'm smoking the Mac 1 Starfighter. The stuff that I smoke is really heady, but it's not knocking me out, And I have some stuff that if I smoke, I'm gonna take a nap. But I don't really smoke that very often.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because of my anxiety, I actually suffer from panic attacks as well. And my body sometimes, because I've had so many panic attacks, as soon as my heart starts kind of racing, my body thinks I'm having a panic attack and
just dance, just boogie, like just start getting, just release that energy.
Yes, and I'll say a cool story. a guy came into the store and was talking about anxiety, and you just reminded me of it because you said like kind of go with it, right? And that's what he said. He told me this story, and it was called Dancing with the Bear. And basically, he said, you know, there's a scary ass fucking bear. You can either let it eat you or dance with it. And I was like, that's fucking awesome. I love that. So then whenever I'm having an anxiety attack, that's what I think about now. I'm like, just go with it, you know? Because with a panic attack, you're usually fighting the anxiety, you know, and you're trying to not have that panic attack. And so you're just focusing on it. But if you
Yeah,
do what you just said and get up and do something.
I don't know if it's like a Star Wars saying or something like that, but I heard somewhere, maybe it was a book, that you know, a lot of things like anxiety is caused by a fear of the future, which is irrational fear
Yes.
because it's not set.
True. So I will say mine is caused by a horrible relationship I was in. So it was nothing that I could control. I have controlled it now, but it took me a long time. So I think there's general anxiety, but mine was beyond that. Like, no joke, I was probably having 3 or 4 panic attacks a week. Like, I didn't even want to leave my house because I was worried I would like be out in public and they would happen. So I've came a long way, but I think it's just, like I said, I've had so many that the first sign of a panic attack is usually your heart, right? So like my body just like starts going, and I have to literally talk myself out of it and be like, nothing's going on, like you're fine. It sounds crazy, like I know it's in my head, but it's something that I haven't it took me a long time to control.
What up, J-Pot? J-Pot's in the chat. That's the homeboy from New York.
Yes, J-Pod is there for sure. Why I got a Google spelling on my phone? Oh, general anxiety is my motivation every morning. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty anxious too. I don't require like a whole lot of sleep. I usually sleep about 6 hours. I wake up pretty early in the morning and I get everything done really quickly.
So I am definitely not like that. You know what? I shouldn't say that. If I have it set in my mind what I'm gonna do, then I'm good. But if I wake up and I don't have a plan, then I tend to be a little lazier. So that's the key. Have a plan, people.
Definitely have a plan.
So we'll go with one last question. What's the best piece of advice you have ever been given?
Huh.
Or one of the best pieces of advice?
I was gonna say something funny, but I can't. I can't say it. I won't say
Oh
it.
no.
No. Let's see. I don't know.
He wants to say it, guys.
Best piece of advice.
Yeah. And it can be in life in general. It doesn't have to be about cannabis.
Yeah. I've heard I've gotten some interesting life tips while locked up in prison. So I don't know
I bet
how valid those would be, mostly pertaining to women. But
well,
no,
I think it's mostly guys in here, so they.
I would say the best probably piece of advice is just about your mindset. There's different. You have to remember people are like experiencing reality differently.
Yeah.
And you may not be able to control anything in your life, or may feel like you can't control anything in life. But I know there's one thing you can control. You can control your attitude. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You control your outlook. And if you change your attitude, and like you might have to train yourself, you know what I mean? Like to do it, but changing your attitude changes everything. It's all
No,
about
you're
attitude.
absolutely right.
Yeah, you got to be able, like for me, man, my attitude is like, I'm gonna go out today and I'm gonna hustle my ass off. I'm gonna get everything done. I'm gonna be efficient with my time. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take care of this. We're gonna, allocate these tasks over here and have, you know what I mean? And you just have to have a mentality of like, I'm gonna go out there. Today's a fucking awesome day. Don't let
Yes.
fucking bullshit bother you, because you know what I mean. You should be enjoying what you do. If you're doing something you don't enjoy, then you should be working towards doing what you enjoy full time. That way, you're not unhappy in the position that your life is in.
Yes, I agree. And just to add to that, sometimes we hurt ourselves by saying, oh, I'm not good enough to do this, or I'm not educated enough to do this, or we limit ourselves by putting those on. We can literally do anything we want. And if we put our minds to it,
Yeah.
it's there for us to take it. And just half the people don't take it, and that's what you got to do.
Well, a lot of people will reject the idea, but you know, people learn at their own pace. Like again, their perception is going to limit their ability to be open-minded in one thing or the other. I think just being open-minded, not being set in a structured belief system, because belief
Yes.
systems often limit people's ability to expand on ideas and change and adapt. And so that's a big thing for me. I mean,
Yes.
look, I've been through a fucking massive amount. My life story is insane. If I wrote a book, you wouldn't believe some of the fucking shit that would be in there. And so I kind of feel almost like a sage sometimes, because I have the experience to back up the philosophy that I hold. And I'm constantly thinking about theology and philosophy and, the
Yeah.
world in general and the problems that we face. And I think that kind of goes with the territory. I mean, it would be great if I was just like, didn't have such a active imagination, and I could just go day to day, kind of, happy go lucky.
For sure.
But no, I feel like I have a big responsibility and stuff. So it's all about the
Yes.
mindset, though. I mean, this really is.
No, I totally agree with you, because I've been stuck, like I said, in the last year. I When my sister passed, I was kind of stuck in a space that I didn't want to be, but then I kind of felt guilty moving from that space, if that makes sense. Um, so it took me a while, but you're right, it is all in your mind, and you
Yeah.
gotta be strong, people.
Well, I mean, if you think about things in like even from just a logical standpoint, like yesterday doesn't exist, right? Tomorrow doesn't exist. Like they're essentially constructs
Yeah.
that are, they have some probability to them, but that probably doesn't manifest as reality until all
Yes.
certain parameters are met. And so if you start setting parameters now in this time
Hmm.
frame where you're actively working in the space that we're working in, the instant, this like singularity, this moment,
Yep.
then then those outcomes change, right? So it's just
True.
really using logic to say, hey, I'm going to do this one thing at this moment, because the probability of the outcome that we're looking for will increase the more we do that. If we do repetition, or if we're expecting an outcome to happen,
Yeah, I
we're
like
working
that.
towards that outcome. It's again, you're not like worried about the past. You're not worried about like the past. There's a saying, the wizard, it's one of the wizard's rules,
Yeah.
and there, if you look on my IG on my stories, they're in there.
Yeah.
And let me pull it up real quick. I'll read it.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's so true. It is a lot. You know,
Here it
like
is.
our oh, go ahead.
It's the wizard's seventh rule. It says life is the future, not the past. The past can teach us through experience how to accomplish things in the future, comfort us with cherished memories, and provide the foundations of what has already been accomplished. But only the future holds life. To live in the past is to embrace what is dead. To live life to its fullest, each day must be created anew as a rational thinking being. We must use our intellect, not our blind devotion to what has come before, to make rational choices.
Yes, I like that. I like that. That is really good.
So
Nice.
all those are on my Instagram story under Wizards Rules, and there's 15 Wizards Rules, and if they're really simple, usually that's probably the longest one. Some of them are just a few phrases, but they're things that you can
Cool.
think about logically and kind of like just meditate and think on,
Yeah,
because
I like
there's
that.
a lot of depth within the simple message and the idea that they suggest. And
For
again,
sure.
it's really logical. It's really logical to think in terms of now, right? As opposed
Definitely.
to, because anxieties are often based in past experience or past trauma, but that's also, again, it's embracing what's dead. So if you want to move past that,
Definitely.
then you have to let the past die. You have
Yes.
to be
No,
willing
you're right.
to you have to be willing to forgive people. You have to be willing to forgive yourself. I mean, one of the other wizards rules is, um there's magic in sincere forgiveness, magic to heal and forgiveness you grant, and more so in the forgiveness you receive.
And I agree with that. So that's one thing. You can't, like people say, forget the past, and yeah, you do want to forget the past, but you also want to heal from anything that's happened in the past for you to not carry that into the future, if you know what I mean.
But also, what
Um,
does that entail? Does it entail meditating on the past? Does it entail putting yourself back into those traumatic experiences and reliving those? Is that what you really want? Do you want to induce that type of stress in the present moment, or do you just want to let go of it? Let go of it and let it be what it is, and not let it define who you are as a person or what the outcome of your future would be.
no, totally. And it goes back to when you said forgiveness. That's what I've realized is in order for you to move on from something that's happened in the past, you need to forgive the person maybe that did something to you, for example. You don't have to like go and forgive them, but you have to make peace with it within yourself and let it go and forgive for you to move on. And I've had to do that, like there's the relationship I was in, like it would have been beautiful for me to get an apology. I never was going to get one. So I could hold on to that, or I could forgive what happened for myself, which is what I did. And I was able to move on from it. But I think if I didn't do that, it would still be in there in the back of my head. You know what I mean? I may not realize it, but I think it would affect things going forward if I hadn't been able to forgive. So I like what you said about forgiving, because you do need to do that to move on, I feel. Awesome. So where can everybody find you? I'm going to have all your links on the show notes when we're done, so they can go to your website or anything like that. But if you want to let them know where to find you.
Yep. So if you look at the name right there on the screen, Rust.Brandon on Instagram, and also Bokashi Earthworks. I'm not gonna tell everybody what the new name is gonna be yet. We're gonna wait until we get everything all
Nice.
integrated. But you can find me on Facebook, Instagram. I might even have a Twitter, but I don't ever use it. And then we have a YouTube channel, Bokashi Earthworks YouTube channel, where we do the Battle of the Breeders. where we're doing some pheno hunting out of the new facility. We're doing breeder interviews. We'll be doing pro tips and tricks. We'll do, updates on the garden, things like that. It'll be all kind of integrated. And the website, BokashiEarthworks.net, and we have the Bokashi Seed Vault, like on your cool little video that you put together earlier.
Yes.
And we don't ship up north, but we cover the U.S.
Yeah.
Minor outlying islands, and we've got all kinds of cool products: humic fertilizers, microbes, amendments.
Yes, I was actually checking out the website. You've got a lot of really cool things on there. So definitely go check out the website. He also has a seed vault website, so you can purchase seeds. There's a lot of really good information even just on the site. So go and have a look, guys. And you can follow him on Instagram as well. Tons of information on Instagram daily. So definitely go follow him there as well. And I just want to thank you for coming on. That was a blast. We learned a lot, or I know I learned a lot. I'm sure everybody else did. So we really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. And then we're just going to play his little video here, and then we're going to scram. So have a good night, guys. Thanks for joining. And thanks for any questions that was asked. And we'll see you next week.
To lead, music all we need, it's planting the seed. Hands in the air, no worries, no cares. Lost in the sound, joy is all around. Sunset vibes, oh, feel that energy grow.
Thanks, guys, for hanging. That was a blast. I had a really good time. I'm going to put all the links, like I said, in the show notes, so you guys can go and check out all his sites and go check out his Instagram, guys, because he's got some really good stuff going on there. Have a great night, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks for all the questions, and we will see you guys soon. Cheers, guys. Have a good weekend.
Ancient ways call me forth through smoke and stone. Every breath brings strength to seeds we've grown. Medicine wheel keep turning, yeah. Knobs keep burning bright. Miranda lead the circle round, teaching wrong to right. Keep turning, keep running all night. Keep running all night. Earth beneath my feet, power in the ground, guided by the wise ones, sacred ways we found. Each plant a blessing,